About this love. About this about this love. About this love. Love. Good afternoon, my peoples. You are tuning into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale Skinner, and my wife, Charel. Say what's up to the peoples.
What's up, peoples?
How you guys doing today? We hope you guys had a good weekend. We hope you guys are staying safe out here with this COVID-19. Only going out if you need to. And as always, you can follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes, TuneIn, YouTube, Audio Mac, and yes, the Book of Faces.
The Book Facebook. Of Faces.
Oh, yeah, goodness. It's funny because somebody was like, hey, "Your podcast is on Facebook." I'm like, "Yeah, you can upload videos on Facebook." Yeah, upload that junk. It's on Instagram too. So just follow us on all them platforms.
About this love.
For today's topic, we were watching a TV show, Little Fires Everywhere with Kerry Washington. There's a young lady in this
and Reese
TV
Witherspoon.
Show. I don't know her name. I mean,
you just gonna call out Kerry Washington? She's not the
Kerry
other
Washington
character. And Reese
is
Witherspoon.
well known.
Okay, I'm not gonna go there with you.
But anyways, before I was really interrupted, I was gonna say,
right.
I was gonna say,
I'm helping you out, brother.
We just wanted to touch on, because this is a podcast about relationships, and we wanted to touch on the suspicious, I guess, behavior that she was doing that was portrayed on the TV show, and by that I mean twice, but I think it showed the one that happened in the later event after the first one happened, right?
So you giving away the movie? The
TV show. Well, basically,
the TV
show. She met up with
an ex.
Yeah, an ex-boyfriend. Left her family for 2 days. Met up.
She did not leave him for 2 days.
She did. She was going for 2 days.
Oh, you're talking about the second time?
Yeah, the second time she went up to New York to meet up with her. Well, she didn't go with the intentions of meeting up with her ex. Mm-hmm. The first time she went to get some information on somebody.
Well, hold on. How do you know that she didn't go with the intentions of meeting up with her ex?
Because in the TV,
she knew he was there. Because
in the TV show, you can tell it hadn't even crossed her mind until the cab driver said, "Yeah, it's good to know people in high places." And she remembered that he worked for the New York Times. That's what she decided to give him a call.
Okay, so real quick, disclaimer, Dale's giving away the whole show. If you hadn't seen the series yet, he's giving away the whole series. So if you wanted to see that series, then I guess pause this, go watch it, I guess, maybe. Or just continue to listen to this while Dale tells the whole series.
Yeah, so anyways.
Oh, gosh.
And the first time, the first time she met up with him,
the ex,
with the ex, it was way past dinner, so it was like they had a late
rendezvous.
Snack.
Well,
yeah,
okay, well, hold on. You have to set the premise, because you just jumping right into it. Now, for those who didn't see it, she's married with 4 kids. So. Not Kerry Washington. Reese Witherspoon is married with 4 kids. She lives in suburbia, somewhere in Ohio. And basically she lives this picture perfect, planned out life that went as the way her mother had planned it. Basically, there was a point where, she flashes back to, or the series takes an episode to flash back to her past, where she's with this other guy who's, obviously not her husband. It's almost as though they're in France and they're having a good time. And he asks her, why are we going back to, America? Let's stay in France, longer, because if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. And so she's like, no, we have to go back. We have to get married. My mother's waiting on us. They paid for us to, spend our time here. Now it's up. Our fun is over. Let's go back. Let's get married. Let's live in the house that my family has given for us, or set aside for me and for us to live in. And, let's just do life. We had our fun. And I guess basically her flashing back to that, I guess it goes to show that, she never got the chance to really or she wished she would have taken that opportunity to spend a little bit more time in France, because essentially he broke up with her. She's like, so if you're not coming back with me, how are we going to, stay together? And he basically said, or he didn't say anything. So they didn't stay together. So from there, basically, what Dale is trying to allude to is that she went back with the ex, for a rendezvous probably twice throughout this series.
I mean, I was just saying, like, in marriage, what is considered suspicious activities?
So the fact that she didn't tell her husband that she was
crossing the lines,
I mean, that whole thing was crossed the line. Like, just the way that she had walked out on her husband twice. And I understand that she was, like, very frustrated in both those situations. But at the same time, it's like, you have to have that type of, like, trust established. Like, you have to build that up first. Because, like, it kind of goes into what we were talking about in a previous podcast, just about trust, like before getting married. We had talked about Stephen Jackson and about trust before they had even gotten up to the altar. We had spoken on another episode just about that trust, like why get married if you don't have that trust?
I don't think that has anything to do with, I don't think that has anything to do with it. And
you don't think it's trust?
No, not at all. Because frustration, pressure brings out of people what they didn't know was in them. So I mean, I don't think that's trust. Like, nothing to do with trust. Like in the heat of the moment, when someone is being pressed hard, beyond what they feel they can be pressed against. I mean, I don't think even they know what they would do. So I don't think that there's anything to do with trust. Like even the most trustworthy person, in scripture has done things that is despicable to the Lord. So I don't think it has anything to do with it. Just that in the time of testing, they failed. I mean, and clearly there was no sign before that they would have failed, but they failed. So I don't think there's anything to do with trust. I think it's because you said she was frustrated. Oftentimes when people get frustrated, depending on how frustrated they were in the TV show, she was very, very frustrated. The newborn baby was crying all day nonstop. She already had 3 kids. So it's like, of course, it drove her past a little bit before crazy, because she started throwing glass plates on the floor and just breaking them. So she was probably pushed past her mental limit. So I don't think trust would have anything to do with what she would have done in that moment. It was more so just a weak moment, in time. But I think that even in that situation, we know what is considered, suspicious behavior, everything that she was doing.
Yeah, but you talk about behavior and suspicious behavior. How would you know that something is suspicious? Anything could be suspicious if you don't trust them. Now, I understand you said it had nothing to do with trust. And I do understand, like, when you're frustrated, like, you never know. Like, when someone says, I do, you don't know the type of things that will be thrown at you and the type of pressures.
Life,
life. Yes, definitely life will be thrown at you. But when you say I do, you don't know, like, what's going to happen. And so you're like, okay, well, this is what I can see thus far, and I'm good with that. So I'm going to say I do. I'm going to walk down the aisle, and we're going to just be happily married until something comes up. But still, like, you don't know what's going to happen, in the same way that you're saying that you don't know what you would do until you're pushed past that point. But at the same time, like, if I knew you, let's say you and I had like a issue, but I took my time to get to know you, and I know that you're pushed past the point of like no return. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like I would sense that. And if I don't sense that, then I would see that. And then if I don't see that, then it's almost like I haven't taken the time to know like where you would go or what you would do. Because did he know where she went? Or like the husband, did he know where she went or what she did when she got frustrated? I don't think anyone knew, and it's almost like, who knows her well enough? And I think it goes back to what we were saying, like, why are we so afraid to show people or even show ourselves, like our innermost like selves? We're even afraid to be vulnerable, with God, because I think there's a level of vulnerability that we just think that we can avoid in this life. And it's like the dark places where, where we're crying, where we're upset. And not that you put your trust in those dark places, because I mean, I wouldn't trust anything that any of the dark places of my heart, I wouldn't, or of your heart, you know what I'm saying? But it's still like, I trust in the Lord in those dark places. And so I wouldn't see it as being suspicious if you didn't know where I would go if I was upset. Is that suspicious?
I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what she specifically did in TV show. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is what she did. I don't want to say it's suspicious behavior. it was that it was kind of crossing the line within her marriage, because she even got to the point where she was about to lay with the guy, but when she got in the bathroom when she was already half naked, she rethought it. But at that point, you've already committed the act already in your heart, so it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? So I was speaking more so on that, like what is considered suspicious behavior in a marriage, and I would say that is what's considered suspicious behavior in a marriage. Meeting up with the ex or meeting up with a man or woman when you're married that you could potentially be attracted to and know it can lead to other things. That is suspicious behavior in a marriage. And there's a lines that probably shouldn't be crossed. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying if I'm mad and I storm out of the house and you don't know where I'm going. No.
Yeah, but you said that she was frustrated. And you don't know what you would do if you're frustrated. How is that suspicious? If you can pose that argument, like, "Oh, I was just frustrated," because
no, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that's suspicious. I'm saying what she did. It wasn't really suspicious. It was cheating. I mean, let's just go ahead and call it a spade a spade. It wasn't suspicious. It was cheating. Mm-hmm. Suspicious is if you're doing something and I think you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, but I don't know. That's like suspicious.
If
but
you
she was cheating.
Yeah.
Okay. And she was even caught by her husband. Later on down the road, he figured it out, and he found some receipts and figured it out. But that's what I'm talking about. Just the. I guess I shouldn't have said suspicious behavior. More so like what's crossing the line in marriage. I mean, and again, to some people in their marriage that may be agreed to be okay. I don't know, but I know to me and you, it's not. So I was just saying that what she did. Now what I was saying. As it relates to trust, I was saying that you can't say a person is untrustworthy because that may have never been a problem in their marriage before. She may have, like I said, but she was pushed to the point where she probably didn't know what she would do. And sometimes
so wait a minute, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So from what you're saying is not to say that I don't have trust for you or you don't have trust for me, but if I'm pushed to a point where I'm very frustrated, I can just throw all of that out the window. I could throw.
No.
I just wanted to understand.
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is, you said that it was a trust thing, and I'm saying it's not a trust thing. I'm saying it's not a trust thing because I'm saying when people are angry, they do things, or frustrated, they do things that they normally wouldn't do. That's not really an attack on their character as it is just a weak moment. No, I'm not saying, I'm not talking about, I'm not saying what she did. That was terrible. But I'm saying like to act out in frustration or in anger, it's just a weak moment in the flesh.
Okay. So then let's say, I mean, I've heard people say that they have weak moments in the flesh. And I mean, I've had weak moments in the flesh. I'm sure you've had weak moments in the flesh. And, because we're human, right? But at what point do you push past that? Do you like even in your frustration, what point do you push past that and you continue to, I don't want to say like build up your spouse, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at the fact that because you're human, because I'm human, and we have a weak moment, do we not still try to express some sort of or some level of restraint?
I mean that's assuming the person cares to at that moment. I mean, I've seen people almost get into a fight and lose their job. I mean, do you think that they intended to get into a fight? No, they didn't. When you become that livid, that enraged, you're not thinking clearly at all. I don't think that when people are upset or angry or whatever, that they think clearly at all. I mean, that would kind of be, the opposite of being mad, Yes, yeah. I'm mad right now. Let me not hit you and not lose this job where I make $100K a year. It's like, you don't need to think that way.
I think people need to grow to a certain level of, I mean, even you and I think we need to grow to a certain level of restraint.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what's required of us by the Lord. And just thinking about that scenario that you gave with Reese Witherspoon and Little Fires Everywhere, I think that there was just so many different issues going on in her marriage.
Yes, it was.
And that's why I say it's a trust thing. For me, I seen that as a trust thing, because if her life was already planned out and everything was laid out before her and all she had to do was just follow along on the path and things didn't turn out to be, she essentially in her mind, I guess, thought that, she was the good girl who did everything that she was told to do. And she felt as though she got the short end of the stick because she's doing things in her mind that she thought was good, And so she thinks it's a good thing to do X, Y, and Z, like with her now husband, because that was already planned out for her, and that was told to her that it will lead her to success. Now, I mean, that obviously there was some truth to that because they're still married, but then she's seen that there was some fault in that because they're not happily married or they're not in a stable marriage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, just the marriage in general, and the TV show. It's actually it's a good TV show to watch, and I'll say, if you do watch it, just take a mental note of just the relationship that she has with her husband, and just notice a lot of things. Just watch and observe and see. Like one of the things I observed is that the husband was very out of touch. As it relates to his children, like he didn't know what was going on.
They both were out of touch.
Neither one of them knew what was going on with the kids. It's kind of like he was, and with her, it's like she was worried about somebody else, but then your own daughter is having issues, having problems. It's kind of just like they were all over the place, But again, I mean, I felt like it's definitely a good show for those who are looking to get married. Mm-hmm. Just watch it, observe it, and just take notes, so you know what not to do, in your marriage. Those who are currently married, and a lot of what's going on in that show for them is a reality. I mean, I guess just kind of watch it, observe it, and take notes so you can kind of stop doing some of the things you're doing. I guess because what I wanted to do with this episode, or I actually wanted us to just discuss like what is inappropriate behavior in marriage. Like for you, like what do you consider to be inappropriate behavior in a marriage? Like far as like things you don't do as a wife or a husband, things you just don't do, or should I say you shouldn't do?
Okay, I mean, because you gave the example of that show and you're suggesting that show, I think there's a lot of things that I would not do. But like, for example, yes, frustrated, probably would walk out, probably would just take a drive somewhere, but consoling in an ex, maybe not.
By myself eating lunch and a woman flirt with me, I probably wouldn't be wise to sit there and talk to her if she's already flirt. You know what I'm saying? Just things like things that, or probably shouldn't give somebody my number that I just met if I know that they could possibly like me. Just things like that. Like what else? Like what other things could you do? What would you not want to do in a marriage? What you would consider crossing the lines?
I think there's a lot of things that you can do to cross the line. Like, I think mainly not being open with your spouse about, like, if you had thoughts just about, hey, I think, how about this? Prime example. So I was going to this bank. You were telling me to go to this bank. It's close to our son's school. And you were telling me to go to the bank to, on payday, make sure you blah, 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 like transfer this money, that money, pay this bill, that bill, or what have you, right? Now, at banks, bank tellers can most times be friendly, but these younger bank tellers, they are a lot friendly. Like hey, I see your birthday's coming up. I see this and that is coming up. So what would what are you going to do for your birthday? They, try to have conversation with you. I guess, it's a bank. It can get pretty boring, I believe. And so, they're just having conversation with people. But I felt as though at this particular bank I was going to, that this one bank teller, for whatever reason, I kept getting this same bank teller every time I would go. I would be just doing as you're telling me to do. You would say, hey, once you drop our son off, go to the bank, get the money to pay the bills. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So then I kept getting the same bank teller for whatever reason. And I felt like there was a comment that was made that crossed the lines or whatever. I felt like it turned into like, okay, I'm going to just try to flirt a little bit. And because I felt like it was a flirty thing, either way, I did not feel comfortable. And so I stopped going to that bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, we still bank with that company, but in turn, instead of going to that particular bank where I know I would see that person, I was like, you know what? I mean, it wasn't left field, but, I remember us always being told that, like, the enemy doesn't try to like redirect your attention drastically or dramatically. It's very subtle. And so I was like, I felt like a subtle turn and, something piqued my curiosity, like with this person, like, oh, they seem like someone that, I used to go to school with.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have just told him to stop. I would have like, hey, man, you doing?
Well, no, I mean,
is it appropriate? You know what I'm saying? Thank you. You know, give me my money. Let me get my way. You know, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, because, I mean,
Dale, I've seen you in situations where I'm like, you know, that girl was flirting, and I'm right there, and I'm like, you know, that girl was flirting. Oh no, I ain't thinking nothing about it. So sometimes some people don't even think anything about it, but I noticed it, so I just pivoted, and I drive to another bank that is a little bit further, but it's still like in my route home. But I'm like, no, I just feel more comfortable going there. And I mean, not to say that I should cause a scene or whatever, but that's just an example that, you know, I can give of something that I've done to just make sure I continue to stay in those boundaries and still be respectful of you and not like go off somewhere and be like, well, this person at the bank is like flirting with me and, you know, you're making me mad. And so, you know, let me go entertain that. Like, so I'm not entertaining that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I think that's the problem is we entertain those thoughts, then we entertain like the action.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you?
Same thing. Same thing. When I was working night shift, it was a young lady. We used to go to a sandwich shop, and every night, me and the guys in my work group, they would go there and get sandwiches, and I would go there a couple of times to get a sandwich as well. And the lady started to flirt with me, started to give me free food, and then I mean, I didn't really think much of it, but then the guys on my job was like, every time you come here, you say, Dale's here. You know, they had jokes like, hey Dale. I was like, I mean, you know, maybe it is, you know, something, you know. So actually I did. I stopped going there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just stopped going in. You know.
I mean, it's funny. Cause you just said you would say something. Nah, it ain't different. But exactly. See,
it was different.
Nah, that's not different. It's different because she was flirting with you and you was getting free food. That's why it was different. I mean, shoot, I could have been getting free money.
I doubt that.
All he had to do was press the button. He had to press the button. $100,000 in our account.
We should have got us some free money if that was the case, too. I would have been at you.
No.
Get us some free money.
Whatever, dude. You know, everything comes at a price. So nah, definitely not. That is not worth it. But no, I mean, I think that was a great example. I mean, but I think
that sandwich was free. And it came at a price.
You know what? This is how people's marriages end. You entertaining free sandwiches. But no, so I think that's, you know, those are definitely like good practical examples. It's like when you start to feel someone's trying to, I don't know, sway you or whatever. I think also going back to your spouse and being open about it. Now, I didn't tell you about the bank situation.
You didn't tell me. You told me.
I didn't tell you right after or why I was going to a different bank because I was like, well, maybe it's in my head, but because I felt like in my mind that I felt myself starting to, oh, well, I can go here, you know, because it was at a perfect time. I felt like I was feeling like real ugly at the time and, you know, just going through different like changes or whatever. And it's like, that's when it happens, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, just like you said, just being honest about it and not trying to. I think oftentimes where things kind of go south is because, you know, we are not honest about it and we lie to ourselves. You know, ain't nothing going on. I'm just getting a free sandwich out of it. You know what I'm saying? And a free sandwich becomes
a phone number.
Becoming, you know, you guys change the numbers. That ends up becoming something else, and you know, the yada yada yada. And it's like sometimes you got to just kind of know and understand the tactics of the enemy and kind of just know how to kind of just derail them, you know, and just kind of just move along. But I think oftentimes, you know, when you're just in a dark place, because I will say sometimes, you know, if you're ever in a dark place, you know, the enemy, he knows when to come. You know, he's very, you know, he's subtle. You know, he's sit back and watch. You know, the difference between the enemy, or should I say the demonic, is that they don't eat. They don't sleep. All they do is, you know, so they're up watching and watching and watching. So they know when we are at our most vulnerable, you know, and just when our emotions are, you know, up and down, and they know when it comes. So I think just being honest, always being honest with your spouse and not trying to hide things. And I got this, man. I'm cool. I got this. You know, just be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing wrong with being honest, you are a human being. If you get into a moment where you're weak, emotionally, to say your spouse, I don't know if I can handle this. Can you go there or go here and talk to the person, tell me leave me alone, yada yada yada. That's fine, you know what I'm saying?
And I think the people who are holding you accountable and walking with you, I think that is also important too, because I mean, let's say one spouse is insecure about something and then the other spouse is struggling with something. And it's like, well, I can't hold you accountable because I'm feeling insecure about this. I think that trusted third party to sit and pray for you, you know what I'm saying? Like to pray with you, to give you advice, to, check in with you to say, hey, like you guys were dealing with this. Like, are you still dealing with that? Because, it's hard to do it alone, especially when, two people who are in a marriage are kind of held back by something. You know what I'm saying? It could be hard. Like mentally, I just know the feeling of it being hard to hold your spouse accountable. It is hard, especially when, that might become an argument. Like, hey, you told me you weren't going there anymore because the girl was flirting with you. What you mean the girl was flirting with me? I mean, at least somebody flirting with me. Like, you ain't flirting around. I ain't see you, blowing kisses or nothing, and that's instantly an argument. And it's like, okay, you know what? We're not getting anywhere. And so I think, if you can't keep that honesty open with each other, maybe a third party like a counselor or someone who you trust to walk you guys like through those tough times and pray with you guys. The Bible says that we should pray without ceasing. And oftentimes we don't do that, especially when it
we
comes...
cease from praying, if anything.
Absolutely. And especially in our marriage, it's like, we have to pray about those, our vulnerable areas. I mean, not that the Lord doesn't know it, but it's like we need to know it. We need to be aware of it, and we need to be watchful of that. And, put our spouse on alert for those things, because we do have, like you were saying, Dale, like we do have those weak areas in our hearts. We are only human. Well, we're spirit, clothed in flesh, but we are human and we make mistakes.
Like, just try to always be on alert, and just, I guess, just look for areas or times when your spouse may not be feeling up to par, and just always keep them informed of when you are not at your best, so that they can also be on the lookout for you as well. Thank you guys for rocking with us today, for listening to our podcast. As always, it's a pleasure talking with you guys. Please comment on the podcast, leave a review, follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes, TuneIn, YouTube, Audio Mac, Facebook. And again, thank you for rocking with us about this love. Peace.